Um, so maybe I can invite you all with me to just take a deeper than normal breath, and just notice how you're sitting, where you're sitting, how the body feels. And if you need to adjust your body in any way, then let's go ahead and do so now. Finding a pose that's sustainable for you and comfortable. Mm. And just allowing the body to do what it needs to do right now. Breathe how it needs to breathe. And if you like to gently close your eyes, you can close your eyes. And if not, then just leaving them slightly open. Just noticing what you're present with right now in this moment. Been out of time. And just looking inward at your experience right now. Mm. Perhaps just noticing how the body kind of settles in this moment. And noticing what it needs from you in order to settle even more, maybe softening, maybe just allowing it to sink in softly and gently into the surface holding you. Paying attention to any areas in the body that might be active still, where there might be tension or tightness. And again, the intention is not to change your experience. The intention is just to be here with your experience, to attend to whatever is more alive in your life right now. Perhaps I can invite you to notice the breath in the body, noticing the rising of the body or the falling, or perhaps the sensation of the breath as it comes in through the nose, travels. And just seeing if just for a moment your attention can stay right here, right in the breath, right in the sensations in the body. And if at any moment you find anything that's too much for this moment, too overwhelming for right now, seeing if you can just stay with the breath. And if you need to shift your pose, open your eyes. But don't go too far away from your experience. See if you can just remain engaged while taking care of yourself. What if we could just contemplate the idea of just being here with absolutely nothing to do right now, nothing to attend to, but just being here with yourself, turning a kind eye towards your experience. Remember then that trying to make your experience other than what is right now would only cause more tightness or resistance, more tension. So seeing if you can just stay with whatever it is that's happening right now. Pleasant, unpleasant. And then just the reminder that this is an active process. Every time you notice that the mind has wandered away, has taken you in a story, the judgments that come and go, just noticing that and coming right back to the breath or the sensations in the body. Could be the feet, the hands, the entire body, maybe just scanning, noticing what's here. Noticing what happens in moments when there's not much going on. Noticing what happens in the silence, in the pause. Where does the mind go? What rises for you? And just take note of it. And then just really gently and kindly escorting your attention right back to the breath, the body. Letting the waves of the breath keep you afloat. Noticing when the mind becomes impatient, distracts your way, takes you in a story, imagination comes into play. You might even become sleepy. So if you're becoming sleepy right now, seeing if you can just call your attention right back to this body, maybe sit up a little more. Open your eyes if you need to. Staying actively engaged right here in this moment with your experience. Without judgment. If you're noticing thoughts of judgment, just noticing them. They will pass. There's no one that you need to be right now. Noticing what an impatient mind is like. Happens when the mind gets bored. What's your experience of it? Does it take you in a future story about something that you're going to do? Does it go to the past and rehearses something? Does it fantasize? Does it look for something that is amusing? So just notice during the silence. Where does it go? What does it do? And again, this kind, loving awareness that is able to hold it all, to just notice without judgment. Without having to be anyone else than who you are at this moment. You're welcome here exactly as you are. Noticing the habit of your own mind. So, how long can the mind stay engaged with the breath or the body, with this experience, before it goes on to something else? Where does it go to when it's bored? So just noticing what your experience is like during the pause. Is it wondering how much longer it needs to do this? What happens when he knows that he has to stay here, when your attention comes back? Maybe just can invite you to take a deeper than normal breath. To notice this body and the surface that's holding you, seeing the points of contact, adjusting your pose, noticing if there is tension with this attention, noticing if the body might have created some tension as you attended to your experience. So William Stafford, in a poem called You Reading This, says, you reading this, starting here, do you want to remember? Sorry, I'm going to start over again. I think I misread that. You reading this, be ready, by William Stafford. Starting here, do you want to remember how sunlight creeps along a shining floor? What scent of old wood hovers? What softened sound from outside fills the air? Will you ever bring a better gift for the world than the breathing respect that you carry wherever you go right now? Are you waiting for the time to show you some better thoughts? When you turn around, starting here, lift this new glimpse that you found. Carry into evening all that you want from this day. This interval you spend reading or hearing this, keep it for life. What can anyone give you greater than now? Starting here, right in this room, when you turn around. So I invite you to just notice your experience, and from that place of acknowledging your body, seeing what it needs right now. Does it need to adjust? Does it need to move? Wiggling the toes. And then at your own pace, whenever you're ready, allowing the eyes to really gently open. And just invite you to take a look around. Take a look around the place you're in right now. Just notice what's here. And whenever you're ready, you can come back to the group. You can take a look at who's here. So today we're starting to explore this attitudinal foundation of patience. And our practice today was mainly to observe your experience, to notice, which is really always a practice with our mindfulness practice. But today in particular, we're seeing, where does the mind go when there's silence, when there's boredom? And it's so interesting because I sometimes ask people, what happens when you get bored? And they'll say things like, oh, I never get bored. And I'm wondering, what are you doing that you never get bored? How are you entertaining yourself? Because the mind does get bored, right? Unless it's busy, unless it's doing something. You know, some people have even come up to me and said, you know what? The meditations are a little too long. And sometimes they have too many gaps of silence. My mind wanders. And that's exactly what this is about. That the mind has got a tendency to be entertained. The mind has got a tendency to distract itself, right? It's just part of what it does. It can remain still. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of mindfulness practice for us to settle into the moment, to allow our minds. And sometimes we might be able to stay with our experience for just a little long. And sometimes just we can't at all, right? But every time we notice that the mind is wandered, every time we notice where it went, we're learning about ourselves and we're practicing, getting a little stronger in this mindfulness muscle, getting our attention to be sustained in the moment without judgment, right? So I was just kind of browsing around about how patience is defined out in the world. And the dictionary, the Webster Dictionary, actually says that patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. So we must be capable, right? But a capacity is not developed unless we practice something, right? We become capable of something. The more we practice, the more capable we become. So it takes practice, it takes cultivation. And so when he says, to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset, the first thing that came to mind was driving in the car and honking for some reason. And how quickly we resort to honk when we have to wait more than we have to, right? Than we need to. And again, I'm not talking about those times in which, we might be super late to go to somewhere and the person in front of us might be on the phone. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the times in which the mind kind of goes into like green light and the person's not going. And then there's a sense here of impatience, right? That comes, how does it come in for you? Is it an intolerance? Is it a frustration? And that's the idea, to really get to know these points really well so we can cultivate patience. I remember when I used to work in the corporate world, in the cafeteria, we had this microwave and we could all warm up our lunch. Most of the time, I recall getting my food in the microwave and let's say for 2 or 3 minutes, because he had a little timer which give you and I don't know if microwaves do that anymore. I don't own a microwave anymore, but it had a little timing that shows up. And I remember like 10 seconds or 15 seconds before, there was a tendency to get my food out. It was like I couldn't wait the 15 seconds and it's probably warm enough. It's probably ready, right? And that happens constantly. And I see it a lot as an opportunity for practice, right? When my food is in the oven and he says, warm up your pizza for 10 minutes. 9 minutes and something, I'm already checking. And so here again, noticing these opportunities that we have to bring in the practice informally, right? Because formally we're sitting, right? Formally, we're sitting in silence. We're noticing what comes up for us. We're noticing our experience. We're getting to really get to know ourselves really well, right? What happens when there's silence? What happens in the pause? That's what the practice today was about. Where does the mind go? How do you entertain yourself? What does the mind throw your way so that it can keep you entertained, so that you don't have to be with your experience? And what is it that it's trying to avoid, right? For me, many times, it's boredom or pain, something unpleasant. So it's either unpleasant, boredom is usually neutral. There's nothing really going on, right? And so the mind is always going to go into entertaining in some way, into distracting in some way. So according to John Kabat-Zinn, the creator of MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, he says that in our practice, patience is seen as a kind of attitude towards life that accepts the timing of things, right? Accepts that everything in nature, everything in the world has a pace. And when I've taught this class, I've often talked about my plants, which in my office, I used to have them behind me. And I used to always say how I grew them from one leaf. And that was the biggest lesson ever for me, to actually sit there every day waiting until even a little bit of root will show up. And I remember at first going and checking like morning, day, morning, afternoon, night, and just seeing, did it sprout yet? Did it sprout yet? And then eventually learning that there is an order in nature. There's an order about things. The things don't grow from one day to the next, right? You can't grow a tree overnight. You can't grow a plant overnight. A butterfly takes some time to become a butterfly. Yet, we want everything so fast. We want it now, right? And now we have all this technology that even pushes us more into wanting things more into, if I don't get it right now, right? There's something. What is happening to you when you don't get things at the moment, right? How long do I have to wait? You know, I had the opportunity to go to a restaurant over the weekend. And as I was talking to my partner, we were talking about going and meeting a friend there. And the first thing that popped up is, but the lines are just so long. How long are we going to wait? I don't want to wait in line, right? Now, granted, we had nothing else to do, that we could have easily just gone and stand there and wait for our food and make it a thing. You know, another thing happened the other day when I went to a restaurant with a friend, and this is a restaurant that kind of puts in a little bit of a show for people that are attending. And a friend that was sitting next to me, after a certain moment in which everybody was just talking and hanging out, she turns to me and says like, it's just taking forever. And it's so interesting how it is that when we're distracted, entertained, it doesn't seem like forever, because when I looked at her and I was, how long has it been? Because I was distracted. So as long as the mind has something to do, it's okay, right? So what I found really interesting, a couple of weeks ago, I was reading this article by BBC News about research in a science magazine that kind of just tied this to a sense of having to wait alone for something. So being alone, waiting alone for something, right? And this research was really interesting because in the study, it says that, so there were many studies. The first one was with college students, in which they put them in a room, in a just very small white room. So there was nothing around them, no distractions, nothing. Just put them in there for about 15 minutes, I think it was. And the idea was that they would just be with their thoughts the entire time. So they're still giving them something, which is entertain yourself with your thoughts. And what they found out was that after just a few minutes, they wouldn't do it. Now, a really important key point on this is that, so the experiment was be in the room and entertain yourself with your own thoughts, or they had a little machine that would shock them. So electric shock. And it wasn't really super painful, but it was painful enough for them to feel a jolt. And after just a few moments, they realized that people rather get shocked than wait alone in boredom. I just found that fascinating. And that's what kind of got me thinking about this theme and how the mind really just, even if it's unpleasant, it rather distract away. So we'll go into the past and rehearse something for us that didn't go right? Or we'll go into the future. Or then if something doesn't feel right or good, right? If it's unpleasant, it would entertain us into, I can't wait until I go on vacation, right? I can't wait until I'm in this place. Almost like this place is not good enough right now. This place is not good. I can't wait until I go there, because the now is not as good as it's going to be the then. So I just wanted to share all this with you and And I'm hoping that maybe some of it resonates with you. And again, take what you need, leave what you don't. Part of this research that happened also invited people, because I thought maybe just college students. So they invited people up to age 77 to sit in front of their computer for a while. So that was another part of the research. And in that part, they noticed that even though people had the computer and they could easily distract themselves, they still reached for their phone within just a few minutes. And so I feel like in our society right now, we're getting farther away from cultivation of patience, which is, we could even call it a bit of a superpower, to be able to be with ourselves and to be able to notice our experience and to have that capacity to wait for things, right? And so it's interesting, and I'm just I also know that sometimes when we come into these sessions, I run a little late, and I'm wondering what happens for you at those times. It's not on purpose. I'm not doing this so that that you notice, but really just notice. And even when we're waiting, what happens for you, or when we're sharing with one another our own story, our own life, right? How long is this person going to talk? Even if I'm sharing right now, you're probably thinking like, okay, when do we go to the breakout rooms? So the mind is always looking for something else, something pleasant, something entertaining. And also, maybe not so much also. So it's going from past to future, it's trying to do something all the time. So, I love to hear from you and see what your thoughts are about this. And how do you experience impatience? So the question is, what gets on the way of this capacity to be patient? What happens? Getting to know ourselves really well, is that, as I was mentioned before, is that honking coming from a place of, hey, buddy, you didn't see that the light changed? Or is it coming from, right, a certain anguish within? Or is that an opportunity to maybe notice that and see if it's something that needs to be addressed, right? So these are opportunities. The more we practice patience, the more we're able to see what comes up for us. What is it that comes up in moments of quiet, when there's not much going on, when the mind might get bored even, right? Yeah. So thank you for showing up for yourself in this way, for being here with me and with our community. Yeah. Thank you so much for your kind attention, for your loving presence.